Interstate 90. Yeah, all right. Today we are talking about the eastern section of Interstate 90, the final section. So we will have covered this massive road at the end of this episode. All right, let's take a look at the route. We see I-90 goes all the way from Seattle to Boston, but we have already talked about Seattle to Gary, Indiana in previous episodes. We have the western section, you can see that right over here, and we also talked about the central section from South Dakota through the Chicago area, and that video you can see right here. Okay, so today, eastbound, we are not going to be covering the 80-90 concurrency because we already covered that in the 80 videos. So we are today talking about the section from Elyria, Ohio, where 90 splits off until its end at Boston Logan Airport. So if you want to see the 80 concurrency, you can check out the I-80 West video, which is right here. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about interstate highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? And if you're really into it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. And we have an exciting new feature as well. You can request your hometown exit for a $5 super sticker. One request per sticker, or if you're just feeling like it, you can give a $5 super sticker just for kicks. We're excited to get more audience involvement. We've already started this, and it should be pretty cool. We got lots of videos coming up. Big ones, 94, 95, and a whole lot of 3-digit highways and US highways coming. Let me know in the comments or through email, and we can set you up. All right, let's talk about eastbound Eastern I-90. So as I said, we are starting here in the split with the Ohio Turnpike in the outskirts of Cleveland. So we see 80 East through traffic here, kind of a throwback to what the Ohio Turnpike used to always do, and our exit for 90 East Cleveland. Wow, only one lane on that exit, kind of a surprise. And here is our toll booth, so I-90 will have basically its longest free section in the eastern half of the US coming up from this point. At random interchanges, here we are at Elyria at the start of this section of 90. It is eastbound 90 Cleveland. And on the mileage sign, not too surprisingly, Cleveland is on the bottom line. We're kind of already in the Cleveland metro area at this point. Moving forward, we are meeting 71 south for Columbus, 90 East Cleveland here, and then we have 490 East to go to I-77. So I-90 kind of exits itself for, I think, the third time in the Cleveland area right here. We're approaching downtown Cleveland, and we see a sign for the Browns Stadium, which is on the lake. We won't see that in this video though. And I-90 merges on with Ohio Highway 2 onto the Shoreway. So now we are 90 Euclid and Erie, PA. Euclid get kind of a one-off here. It's a suburban Ohio place. Sort of well known, Euclid. And at random interchanges here, 90 West downtown, no big surprise there, and 90 East for Erie. We split from Highway 2, 90 exits itself once again, and we're now on 90 East for 271 South for Erie, PA. We meet 271, sign south for Columbus, and it is still 90 East Erie, Pennsylvania. Mileage signs make sense. Erie, PA on the bottom line here, or Erie, PA. And once we run out of Ohio cities toward the state border, we get Erie 28 and Buffalo at 120. So Buffalo is signed in Ohio. Welcome to Pennsylvania. At random interchanges, we get Erie on this road, no big surprise. And we get next exit, Erie and Buffalo. No weird random Pennsylvania city that's right on the border. We get Buffalo. And we meet I-79. This is probably the only interstate junction in the entirety of Pennsylvania that has good signage everywhere. We get 90 East Buffalo, yes. 79 North Erie, yes, downtown is north of here. 79 South Pittsburgh, yes. Perfect. Wow. And we got the one kind of bad sign in this section of Pennsylvania, 86 East Jamestown, which I've referenced a number of times. Pennsylvania's kind of just following New York's lead here. And on mileage signs, US 23, Buffalo 76. So Buffalo on the bottom line after we pass Erie. And at random interchanges, also Buffalo. Hey, you're pitching a shutout here, Pennsylvania. Wow. And we cross into New York. We're on the Governor Thomas E. Dewey Thruway now, and we get our Welcome to New York sign. Here's our last exit before the toll. Our 120 or so mile stretch of free road is now over, maybe 100 miles, and we are going back to toll roads now. Open road tolling on the Thruway, so this is what it looks like now. And at random interchanges, we are signed for 90 East Buffalo, as we should be. Now we're approaching the Buffalo area, so we have 190 north for downtown Buffalo and Niagara Falls, and 90 is now going to be signed for Albany and Rochester. And it seems on the Thruway they pretty much always have 2 listed. Although when it is 1, we just get Albany and not Rochester. Not sure how I feel about that. I think maybe Rochester should be there if it's just 1, but Albany for 1 is okay too. And we get 290 here, Niagara Falls, and we are getting back onto the toll road because there's a brief free section in the Buffalo area. Mileage sign, we get Rochester, Albany, and New York City. So New York is on the bottom line because the Thruway goes there. I-90 itself does not go there. I think this might be better as Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, but I do understand why the Thruway would want to have New York City as the final city here. Although there is actually faster ways to New York from this point. Meaning 490 for Rochester. This is a pretty big interchange because this is the main road to Rochester, and we don't get an overhead sign, so I don't like that at all. And that seems to be a theme on the Thruway. We meet a lot of interstates on the Thruway, but almost all of them just have signs to the side and not overhead signs. So I think that is something that they could improve in New York State. At interchanges here, it is 90 East Albany coming out of Rochester. And good sign here, Syracuse, Albany, and New York. Now that we've established that New York's always going to be the last one, this is the way to go. And here's the other side of 490, signed for Rochester, although I can't imagine anybody would come all the way out here and then loop back to go on 490 for Rochester. And now we're meeting 690. Once again, no overhead signs. Again, that's going to be a theme. And we've got 690 for Syracuse here. Even when meeting a 2-digit interstate, a major 2-digit interstate like I-81, I-81 does not get an overhead sign. It's very weird. I-81's like the 11th longest road or something like that. And we get Watertown and Binghamton. No mention of Syracuse, and this is the closest exit to downtown Syracuse. And now we've got 481, future I-81, and it is signed for Syracuse, even though we're already past Syracuse at this point. So that's a little weird. Now we get Utica, Albany, and New York. So, well done here. New York State's top line on the Thruway is the city that would be the bottom line for most states. So that's kind of cool. This Utica interchange is wild. We are in between the carriageways of a state highway and sort of 790 right here. So pretty interesting. So we see stuff going on that road, but on the Thruway itself, there's no exits right here. We do eventually have the exit for 790 and State Highways 8 and 12 for Utica. After Utica, we switch to a 2-city sign. We no longer have 3 cities on the sign. We only have 2, Albany and New York. And now we're meeting 890, a lot of 90s in New York State. All of them, in fact, I think. It is signed for Schenectady. Now we get 88, finally a sort of overhead sign because they put this one on top of a bridge. And 88 is signed for Schenectady, Binghamton. But really, it's because State Highway 7 is going to Schenectady and 88 is going to Binghamton. And here is meeting 890 once again, looping back for Schenectady. So again, you probably wouldn't be taking this way. You would have taken the original one. And now we are in the Albany area, so we have our split with 87. So exit only, we've got 87 for Albany and Montreal, southbound 87 for New York and Boston. They put Boston on that side. I looked at it on Street View, and taking that way on the Thruway versus taking 90 through Albany takes the exact same amount of time, but the Thruway just wants you to keep paying tolls. They don't want you to take the free route through Albany, they want you to take the toll route. So it's a little fishy there. Literally, as soon as you exit the Thruway, we are now on 90 Albany, Boston. So Boston does show up there once we're off the Thruway. And we see 87 for Albany International Airport and Montreal. Here we're meeting 787. It is for downtown Albany. So we see South 787. And 90 East is now signed just for Boston. So sensible there. As we cross the Hudson River, here's a look at downtown Albany from I-90. We see there's that one strangely tall building that's way taller than any other Albany building. And our next mileage sign, we get Hudson 28, Boston 163. So Boston on the bottom line, good. And here's where we're meeting the Thruway connectors. So we're getting 90 East for Boston and 287 for New York that way. You can go 287 for Albany that way as well. We are going to be getting back on the Thruway and paying tolls once again for the remainder of this road. This section of the Thruway is quite nice, the Berkshire connector, It's a little toll road that's not the main part of the thruway, but it connects to the Mass Pike. And Massachusetts welcomes you. We finally get to our final state of I-90. At random interchanges, we get 90 east for Springfield and Boston. So as long as Boston's on there, that's fine. And on the mileage sign, we get Springfield on the second line, Boston on the third. Perfectly done. Here's what the tolls look like on the Mass Pike. So we see it is 30 cents right here if you have an easy pass, or 60 cents if you don't. And there are lots of these. I didn't take pictures of all of them. Meaning I-91, and it is signed for Springfield and Holyoke, and 90 east now for Worcester and Boston. So well done. We passed 391 in this area, and we have no exit for it. Here's a view of it. This is pretty common on toll roads. Sometimes you just don't have intersections with the other interstates. And now we meet 291 for Springfield and Hartford, Connecticut, and we are still 90 Worcester, Boston. And now we get Sturbridge, which is around where we meet I-84, Worcester, and Boston. So well done. Here's our intersection with I-84, signed for Hartford, CT, and New York City. Almost surprised they don't have NY City, NY, since they seem to like put the state abbreviations on everything. And here in the Worcester area, we are meeting 290 and 395, which is a interesting route. So south of here, it's 395. North of here, it's 290. But I think it's all the same road. I don't know why they don't just name it all one or the other instead of have it change numbers at I-90 here. Interesting mileage sign here, 495, 95, and Boston. Now at 495 we're getting Portsmouth for northbound, so that makes sense. Taunton, I don't actually know where that is, but it's a 3-digit road, so that's fine. And 90 now signed for Framingham and Boston. Since there's no other big cities between here and Boston, we're getting a suburb. And now we meet 95, which is kind of the inner beltway loop of Boston, and it is signed for Portsmouth again and Providence, so that is good signage there. 90, now we're getting Boston and Logan Airport. Pretty much always two in Massachusetts. Here's our exit for Cambridge, and we see we are still getting Boston and Logan Airport as our control cities. We pass right by Fenway Park, and that's pretty cool. We are super close to it on I-90 here. And I got up on the overpass bridge. This is the Big Poppy Bridge, and we can see a pretty good view of the Boston skyline and Fenway and the Mass Pike. So pretty cool. I've been in this area only one time. The Sox weren't in town at the time, so I didn't see a game. Would definitely love to see a game there sometime. It would be pretty nice. A lot of I-90 in downtown Boston is going to be underground. I think this had a lot to do with the big dig here. So here is where we first go underground. And we do get some pretty good views of downtown Boston as we skirt in and out of tunnels here. Now we're meeting I-93, which is signed north for Concord, New Hampshire. That makes sense. And south for Quincy. I don't know about Quincy. I feel like you should probably just go with I-95's control cities south. Go with Providence. 90 east now for South Boston and Logan Airport, because we're already past downtown Boston. And here we go into tunnels in the I-93 area. We resurface one more time, and now we're getting just Logan Airport, 1.25 mile. Here in the Ted Williams Tunnel, we see we will soon be on State Highway 1A going through traffic here, and Logan Airport exit to the right. And in fact, once we're above ground again, this was 90, and then we get this first sign here for North 1A Revere. So we get no I-90 end signs. I-90 just kind of ends like so many other interstates, even the longest one. All right, let's talk about I-90 westbound. Eastern I-90. We are on Highway 1A, and we see we're going to have our exit for 90 West Toll to South 93, Boston via Williams Tunnel and Logan Airport. So 2 control cities right off the bat, kind of 3 if Williams Tunnel's one. And here is the exit that actually spawns I-90, so we get 90 West Toll and 293 Williams Tunnel. Here's our actual exit for the Logan Airport, and we see we're super close to the airport right here. We will be on West 90 and 2 South 93 Williams Tunnel. We get a 90 reassurance shield, and we go right into the tunnel here. Outside of the tunnel, we are now on 90 West Worcester and 93 and South Boston, this exit. It's quite a complicated exit. A lot of it is underground. I think this is a lot of what the big dig is this interchange with I-93. And after that second tunnel, we end up in a pretty nice area with a pretty good view of downtown Boston. And for a little while, we can also see the Charles River right next to the freeway. Before, we only had 90 West Worcester, but now we are getting 2 control cities the usual Massachusetts way. I think they just did one on the other one because the signs were small because we were in such an urban area. So now it's 90 Worcester, Albany, New York. And we're meeting 95 for Waltham and Providence, Rhode Island. So we're not getting the sign for New Hampshire here. We're getting Waltham instead. I'm not sure if I agree with that. Probably should be the more well-known city. And we meet 495 again, and 495 has the same control cities as it did going eastbound. Get a mileage sign. We see Wester only 16 miles away, I-84 27, and then Springfield 60. So no Albany on this sign. But that's fine. Wester and Springfield are both pretty big places. And we're meeting that weird 290, 395 thing again for Wester and New London, Connecticut. Albany and Springfield will be our westbound signed roads now. We meet I-84 for Hartford. And once again, 90 is still Springfield and Albany. On mileage signs, we get next exit, Springfield and Albany. So well done. Now we're meeting 291 for Springfield and Hartford, Connecticut. And now we are 90 west for West Stockbridge and Albany. I don't know about putting West Stockbridge on there. They feel like they have to have some second thing, but that is only on there because it's the very last exit in Massachusetts. I think just going with regular Stockbridge, a bigger place, would probably be better. We meet I-91 once again for Springfield and Holyoke, and still this West Stockbridge and Albany on 90. But fear not, at random interchanges, they do not talk about West Stockbridge. It is Albany and Boston. Well done there. Good job. Now, these are kind of the only towns we have left, and then Albany 74. We have our last exit Massachusetts, and now we get 90 west for New York Thruway and Albany. Get this sign, the Governor Thomas E. Dewey Thruway, but I could not find a Welcome to New York sign at this sign at all. I guess maybe a Yankees Sox thing. They don't want to welcome people from Massachusetts coming in. And at random interchanges here, we get 90 west for New York Thruway and Albany. Thruway is all open road tolling, but this is what the plazas used to look like when they were still there. We're meeting the Thruway connector. It is signed for New York and Buffalo, and 90 for Albany and Hudson. So just like before, Buffalo long distance traffic is being signed to stay on the Thruway, keep paying that toll. And Buffalo traffic is not being advised to take the free route through Albany, even though it's going to take more or less the same amount of time. On that section of 90, the free section of 90, it is 90 West Albany and 90 East Boston. We're going to meet 787 for downtown Albany again, so now we're going to be signed 90 West Buffalo from this point. We get our U-Albany exit, and we're going to be meeting I-87 shortly and the proper Thruway. So 87 North, Saratoga, Montreal, because this is New York State signing and not Thruway signing. 90 and 87 for New York and Buffalo. And then here's our actual split with 87 and 90 and 87 for the Thruway going in the left lanes. And now we choose which direction we go on the Thruway itself, so we get 90 West Buffalo and 87 South New York. We aren't getting Syracuse or Rochester signed on this, we're getting just Buffalo. And I do think that actually probably makes sense for Buffalo to be the final control city, because Buffalo is quite a bit larger than those other places. And here is where we actually merge onto the Thruway itself, where it has briefly been running with no number between when it's 87 and when it's 90. And here we go, we get 890 Schenectady once again, and still no overhead signs. 88, no overhead sign this time around because they didn't have a bridge that happened to be nearby to put it. And we are getting Utica, Syracuse, and Buffalo. I would probably go Utica, Rochester, Buffalo, just because Rochester is quite a bit bigger, but I understand what they're doing here. Here is 790, the exit for Utica, the very strange looking exit. Let's take a look at that. So overhead, we see we would have to get off and make a couple of turns to get onto 790, which will parallel along I-90 itself before it defaults into a loop around to go into downtown Utica. Very interesting design, unique design, never seen anything quite like this one before. And here's a look from the road. So 90 is what we're looking at in the middle, and then the road with the signs on it is technically part of 790, and that's where 790 is going to do its loop into town. Meet I-81 for Watertown and Binghamton. I'm skipping the 3-digit interstates in the Syracuse area because we already saw them. They look the same going the other way. And still weird that 81 does not have an overhead sign and that Syracuse is not mentioned. If you were to get on to 90 from 81, we get East Albany and West Buffalo. Now we just get two cities on the sign after we leave Syracuse. We just get Rochester and Buffalo. 490 Rochester this way. In this direction, we actually do get a rarely seen overhead sign, so that's good to see. We're gonna follow 490 just a little bit. This video is long enough, just a quick taste. So here's 490 in downtown Rochester, and wow, I've never been to Rochester, but that looks fantastic. That's a beautiful looking city there. I think I'd like to check that out. We might come back to 490 and do a proper episode on it later. And 490 we get West Buffalo here and Inner Loop. So it does default to Buffalo on 490. And on 490, we come back and meet I-90 again, where not surprisingly, we get East Albany, West Buffalo. Now we keep our two cities by putting Buffalo and Niagara Falls on there, and I think that's pretty smart. And we meet 290. 290 is signed for Niagara Falls, 90 for Buffalo. We're meeting 190. 190 goes to downtown Buffalo, so we see downtown Buffalo and Canada follow that way. And 90 is now signed west for Erie from this point. And here's where we meet 219, which also has a fairly confusing interchange for Orchard Park, so I guess this is where you would get off to go to the Bills Stadium, and 90 West Erie. At these random interchanges, it is West Erie and East Buffalo, so they do acknowledge Erie in New York State, even at interchanges. And here's a look at Lake Erie. If you squint, you can see it right out there, so we're sort of close to it right now in this part of New York. And we go into Pennsylvania, we have a Welcome Center, but I could not find a Welcome to Pennsylvania sign anywhere here. I wonder if that's again, like maybe Phillies fans mad at the Mets fans or something like that. I'm not sure why there would not be a welcome sign in Pennsylvania. They're always everywhere else. And on the first mileage sign that we see here, we get PA 89.3, Erie 18, and Cleveland 115. So putting Cleveland on the bottom line here, good job. We meet I-86, which does not have an overhead sign and does not have a good control city, so it is what it is. And we meet this lovely interchange, once again the only one in Pennsylvania with good control cities for interstate to interstate meetings. At random interchanges, it is now Erie and Cleveland, so West Cleveland at this point. So again, we're not picking some random Pennsylvania town on the border, we're actually signing Cleveland. Whichever part of the state DOT runs this corner of Pennsylvania, you guys need to get in a meeting with the rest of the people in your state, because you know what you're doing and the rest of the people in the state do not. And we cross into Ohio. Ohio, find it here. At random interchanges, it is 90 West Cleveland, so no surprise whatsoever there. Cleveland is also on the bottom line of the mileage signs. We're going to meet 271. 271 signed south for Columbus, actually express lanes for 271, local lanes for Cleveland, and for 271 South Local, as 271 South Local have an exit shortly here. We meet Ohio Highway 2, and it will be East Painesville, and we're going to be on 90 and 2 West Cleveland. On this section on Highway 2, we are right on the shore of Lake Erie, so that's pretty cool. Here we're getting our sharp curve for 90, 77, and 71, and 2 is signed for downtown Cleveland. If you continue on 2 here, you will get to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and to the Browns Stadium. Here's a look at Jacobs Field. It's right next to I-90 in downtown Cleveland. And here we can see a little bit of the Jake and then also the Gund Arena. And further back, Cleveland. Come and look at both of our buildings. Here's our split with 77. 77 to be signed for Akron. All right, we've got 71 South Columbus and 90 West Toledo. We're nearing the end of I-90 as a free road by itself. So we see next exit, we get to East 80 and to East Ohio Turnpike. At this exit, you can follow that to get on the other direction of the turnpike because the section we're going to be going is a Y intersection. And here we see 2 West will be signed for Lorain and Sandusky. West 90 and 80 and West Ohio Turnpike Toledo keep left. So here is our actual split onto 80 and 90, and we see once again 90, the longest interstate in the entire country, goes down to 1 lane for a brief period here. We get the toll booth to get back onto the Ohio Turnpike, and here we are meeting with I-80. So that will be the end of Independent 90, and you can check the concurrent part on the I-80 video. This is probably not where I expected the I-90 episodes to end, but here we are. The final slide of the I-90 series. All right, let's take a look at Todd's the way it should be. And also, I probably won't end it that way. I think I'm going to try to make an East and a West 90 supercut. So those hopefully will be out next week. All right, for Eastern I-90, I'm going to say East, it should be Cleveland, Erie, Buffalo, Rochester. I think Rochester because it's a bigger city than Albany, even though it's off the route a little bit. I think Rochester is worth mentioning just because of the size of it. Then Albany, then Boston. And Westbound, I think Wester from the start is good. It's actually the second biggest city in all of New England, apparently. Then Springfield, then Albany. Then I would still probably go Rochester after Albany, but I do understand signing Buffalo instead of Rochester since Buffalo is bigger and Buffalo is where the road actually goes. Then after Buffalo, Erie, then Cleveland, and finally Toledo. All right, thank you so much for watching this episode of Control City Freak, and I hope you have enjoyed this series on I-90. There's going to be a little bit more left. As I said earlier, I'm going to try to make a supercut of eastbound and westbound I-90. If I'm able to do that, that will be available next week. There definitely will be no I-91 next week. Planning on doing 91 maybe 2 weeks from now. So I will see you guys then. Thank you so much. My name is Todd, and until next time, keep on trucking.